Hi ladies, in this video we're going to go through questions 16 to 19 in 4A. So a little bit more complicated, these questions, because we're looking at shares and dividends. Shares and dividends, or shares in general, you may have heard about the stock market. Your parents might have shares, but often it's not something that is always all around us. So it might be a little bit harder to get your head around, but basically most companies are publicly listed. So that means you can go and buy shares in Woolworths, you can buy shares in Qantas, so purpose of buying shares is if the company does really well, then you profit from it. But the same thing is if the company does really bad, then poorly, then you're going to lose money. So it's just one way of investing money, I guess. All right, let's have a look at example 6, because there's not really any formula I can go through with calculating the profit from your shares. So in example 6, there are 500 shares in the Cairns Construction Company, and Richard owns 25 shares. So what percentage of the company does Richard own? So if he owns 25 shares out of a possible 500, okay, and you can see I'm pointing and I always forget that my cursor doesn't come up. Here, the percentage ownership, he owns 25 out of 500 shares, and then just multiply it by 100 to put it into a percentage. So he owns 5% of the company. Question B, the company declares an annual profit of $780,000. How much profit is Richard entitled to? So he's just entitled to 5% of that. So 780,000 times 5 over 100. So this is your 5%, equals 39,000. Okay. Now, question 16, we've pretty much got the same scenario, but Nick owns 500 of the 100,000 shares available in the Lucky Insurance Company. What percentage does he own? So just similar to before, he owns 500 out of a possible 100,000. And then we just want to convert that into a percentage. Now I'm just going to make sure I get this right. So I'm going to do it on my calculator. So he owns 50, it doesn't own 50%. Sorry, I'm misinterpreting my calculator. It came up with half, and I'm like, he doesn't own half of the business, but he owns, as a decimal, to half. There we go. He owns 0.5%. Well, that was me misinterpreting what my calculator was saying. So 0.5% of the company. All right, question B. If the company declares an annual profit of $2,500,000, how much profit is Nick entitled to? So the profit, $2,500,000 times 0.5. Let me just make sure over 100. So 2,500,000 times 0.5 over 100. So he is entitled to $12,500. All right, price to earnings ratio. So current price to earnings ratio, current share price divided by the profit per share. Okay, so in these questions, we're going to look at the profitability of shares. Okay, so the price to earnings ratio, so the current price per share over the profit per share. So suppose shares in company A have a market value of $20 and a 12-month profit per share of it. So let's just highlight the important bits of information. So that's the value of the share, and a 12-month profit per share of $1.85. And then we've got a second one, so I might highlight it in a different color. So company B has a market value of $50 and a profit per share of $3.30. What is the price per earnings ratio for each company for that time period? So for company A, the share price is 20. So I'm looking here, 20, and the profit, where am I? Profit per share is $1.85. So 20 over $1.85 gives you 10.8. And for company B, $50 per share, and the profit per share is $3.30. So we get 15.2 to 1 decimal place. So they're just your ratio. Now, which shares have a better investment? So compare the ratio. So company A has the better investment because price to earnings ratio is lower. Okay, so you want a lower price to earnings ratio. All right, so suppose shares in company A have a market value of $42.50. Okay, so I'm just highlighting all the important bits of information. And the company makes a 12-month profit of $4.85 per share. And the other one I'll put in yellow, company B is $8 and a profit of 80 cents. So question A, the price per earnings ratio. So we'll do company A first. No, I'll do company B over here. All right, so price to earnings ratio is the cost. So for company A, it's $42.50 divided by the profit, so $4.85. I'll just do that on the calculator. So we get, if we're just rounding it to 2 decimal places, 8.76. And then for company B, the price to earnings ratio, so it's $8 over 80 cents, which is 10. All right, which company have the better investment? So company A, because it's lower, lower price to earning ratio. All right. Question 18. All right, lots of words here, so I'm going to use my highlighter. Michael has $5,000 to invest in shares. He has decided to invest in either the Alpha Oil Company or Omega Mining. The price to earnings ratio for Alpha, so we've got looking at the price to earnings ratio for the Alpha Oil Company is 10. If the share price is $5, what is the profit per share? Okay, so we use the same formula as before. So the, what was that, profit to earnings, price to earnings, sorry. The cost over profit per share. All right, and then we just substitute in what we know. So the price to earnings ratio is 10. So 10. And the share price is $5. And we want to know the profit per share. So I might just leave that as P. Now you can just do solve on your calculator. But I know to solve, when your unknown is on the denominator, you just switch these over. So P is equal to 5 over 10, which is going to be So profit per share is 50 cents. All right, question B, the price to earnings ratio for Omega Mining is also 10. If the share price is $10, what is the profit per share? So we're going to be using the same formula as before. I might just do it over here. All right, so price to earnings is 10. The cost was also 10, and we want to do the profit. So when your unknown is on the denominator, just switch them over. So your profit is going to be 10 over 10, which is 1. So, whoops, $1. 2 decimal places then. Okay, 2 decimal points, I mean. All right, Michael decides to spend his money equally between the 2 share investments. How many shares in each company does he buy? So he has $5,000, so remember that from the very beginning. Michael decides to spend his money equally between the 2 share investments. How many shares in each company does he buy? So the cost per all right, so he spends $2,500 on each. Okay, so he starts off with 5,000, and there's 2 companies, so he's got to divide that by 2. So he's going to be spending $2,500 on each. Now, company A, can't remember what it was called. The shares were $5, so 2,500 divided by 5. You can work out how many shares he's buying. So he buys 500 shares in company A. And then the second company, he also spends 2,500. So he buys 250 shares. All right, let's make sure I've finished right doing that question. All right, question D. Suppose that in the next 12 months, the share price of Alpha Oil is expected to increase by 10%, while the price to earnings ratio is expected to remain at 10. Omega Mining is expected to increase by 8%, while the price to earnings ratio is expected to reduce to 8. What is the expected gain to Michael from these changes? Okay, so the share price, so that's what's increasing. So for Alpha Oil, the company A is increasing by 10%, and the price to earnings ratio is remaining at 10. And then Omega Mining, which I called company B, is expected to increase by 8%, while the price to earning ratio is expected to reduce to 8. What is the expected gain to Michael from these changes? So the share price is increasing by 10%. All right, let's just, hold on, did I do question C? Oh, yes, it's C. All right, this is complicated stuff. Okay, so let's do company A, Alpha Oil. So the share price has increased by 10%. So the share price was initially $5. Okay, so it's increased by 10%. So we're multiplying that by 1.1. So that's gone up to $5.50. And if we price to earnings ratio is expected to remain at 10, I don't think we need to calculate the profit per share, but I'll do that anyway. I'm just trying to think how I usually calculate things, but maybe I've been doing it wrong all all along while I've had shares. Okay. So the profit to earnings, price to earnings ratio is, I'm just copying down this, cost of profit per share, cost over profit per share. All right, so the same formula I wrote at the start of question A. I was just looking at that. Okay, so the price to earnings ratio stays at 10. This time our cost is $5.50. So the profit per share is what we want. So we can switch them. P is equal to $5.50 divided by 10. So that gives us 5.5. No, sorry, not 5.5. What am I doing? 0.55. So he has 2,500. I got more space to write down below. Good. So he's got 2,500. No, he doesn't have 2,500 shares. He's got 500 shares times 0.55. So I'm just doing this on my calculator. So $275 there. And then for company B, or what was it, Omega. Okay, so for Omega, it's increased by 8%. The original share price was $10. So $10 times 1.08. So the 0.08 representing the 8%. So we get $10.80. All right, so your price to earnings ratio is the cost over the profit per share. So price to earning ratio has now reduced to 8. The cost is $10.80 and P. So P is equal to $10.80 divided by 8. So $1.35. And he bought 250 of them. So $337.50, because I am praying I got this question right. So complicated. So the total profit is adding the two together. So that was from company B plus company A, which I got here. And we get $612.50. And I'm going to check my answer just to see how we go. Girls, when I'm doing these questions, I'm like, you don't do this sort of financial maths in further. It's just so interesting. Yay! And I got the right answer. That's very good to know. I feel like I can now go and be an accountant. No, but all this stuff is not in the further course. So, but it's good life skills, girls, especially if you want to go into accounting or something like that. All right, very last question. So percentage dividend yield. So dividend yield equals the dividend divided by the current share price equal times 100. Now, my understanding of dividends is what companies will give if they make a profit. So if you have shares, you can be paid out in dividends. If you want to know more, perhaps, do some more of your own research, because I'm not overly familiar with what dividends are. Actually, I wonder if it says in your textbook. No. Okay, so in practice, companies do not share all of their profits with shareholders, but they do pay dividends. Okay, so dividends can be specified in one of two ways as the number of dollars each share receives as a percentage of the current price of the shares, called the dividend yield. So instead of being given profit, you get dividends. All right, last question. Let's have a look at the example first. So Miller has 3,000 shares in Alphabet Childcare Centres. The current market price of the shares is $3.50 each, and the company has recently paid a dividend of 40 cents per share to each shareholder. How much does Miller receive in dividends in total? So just looking here, so Miller has $3,000 and 40 cents per share. No, 3,000 shares, sorry. So 3,000 times 0.4. So the total dividend is 1,200, and you can see the formula used here. What is the percentage dividend yield for this share? Give answer correct to 1 decimal place. Okay, so the shares are worth $3.50 and the dividend per share is 40 cents. So it's 0.4 over $3.50 and just multiply by 100 to get the dividend yield. So as a percentage. Alrighty, last question. Okay, so suppose Taj has 500 shares in Bunyip Plumbing Supplies. If the current market price of the shares is $4.60 each, and the company declares a dividend of 50 cents per share, how much does Taj receive in dividends in total? Okay, so question A, just writing down the formula. So total dividend equal, oh, shouldn't be an E on the end, number of shares times dividend per share. All right, so the number of shares is 500 and the dividend per share is 50 cents. All right, so 500 times 50 cents, we get 250, whoops, how did that happen? $250. All right, what is the percentage dividend for this share? So question B. So the dividend is 50 cents and the share price, I think, was $3.50, $4.60, sorry, $4.60. And then to turn it into a percentage, just multiply it by 100. So 0.5 divided by $4.60 times 100. So we, 2 decimal places, 10.87%. Oh, that one was a tough one, girls. But we're now at the end of 4A. Please remember this high level financial maths is not in the further course, but still good to know in life, especially if you're interested in accounting or something like that. But yeah, it is still a part of the general maths course, so you need to know it as it's a part of the curriculum. But yeah, you don't see shares and dividends on the further course. Okay, bye girls.